I plugged into my laptop with my personal link, and opened up the program for ping. I was going to start at the beginning. Instantly I felt little revulsion. Whoever had put this program together should be shot. Okay, I had been shot before, so I'll give myself a pass here. It was a mess. My own work wasn't good. But it wasn't just my work I was critiquing. Such a simple program, bloated and twisted. I could fix this. But why bother? Instead I started a new program, and started typing, my mental interface helping me adjust settings without needing to stop typing as my hands blurred over the keyboard. There were a few lines in the old program I carried over. A few that had acceptable coding. But I still fixed them. I altered them, smoothed them out. Removed fluff. Despite being a large enough program, my Cyberdeck registered something as simple as ping as actually taking up space on the Cyberdeck slots. It didn't need to be. It could be tiny, a small efficient program that did exactly what it should do. Hell, the way the program worked at a base level could be completely altered. Right now it connected with the foreign system, and basically blasted the system with requests for everything it was connected to. It was like walking into a server and ringing a bell. Sure, you would get the information, but anyone watching would now know. So I did something different. A little trick I had picked up thanks to Ghost Touch, and with the tiny size ping now was, and the fact system connectivity was by definition less secured data than nearly anything else. I looked up as June pushed my screen down. June? He ignored my question for the moment, plopping a burrito in front of me with a look. Eat. I'm in the middle of something. I grumbled instantly, especially at the sight of the burrito. Motoko, you've been on that laptop all day. Eat. I blinked, looking out the window. I had thought the dim light meant the sun was still coming up, but no. The sun was going down. Oh. Oh, she says. June grumbled at me, but I had decided to be a better emoto. So I reached out despite my fingers desperate to go back to the keyboard and peeled the disgusting not burrito. It was horrible, but it did fill me up. Dash. Hiromi is here. The voice calling out as our front door opened nearly sent me on the floor. Only the fact I was holding my laptop full of wonders meant I didn't end up tossing it to reach for a gun. Hiromi, I snapped at her once again. Surprise entrance. I really needed to teach the girl to knock. Motoko. She called back, instantly leaping over the side of the couch to land on me. My quick reaction to save the laptop, the only thing saving it from fat Hiromi ass destroying it. Hiromi. Watch it. You almost broke my laptop. Now you are gonna move it. Now what's this I hear from June about you going all nerdy hermit? She asked, and I scoffed, looking around the apartment for my brother, but I did vaguely remember him leaving a while back after making me eat. Again. What time is it? June is a narc. I'm fine. I've been programming. Ooh. Let me see? Hiromi demanded, sitting sideways in my lap, as she kicked her boots up on the couch. Hiromi, take your boots off. I like this couch. I told her firmly, and she blinked before looking a little sheepish and did as I asked, although she then flopped back on top of me demanding attention. Personal space? Don't need it. She replied instantly to my comment, and I rolled my eyes at her, as I reached over her and grabbed my laptop. I've been fixing my ping quick hack. I told her as I opened the laptop, showing the code. Literally just lines of code all organized together. I knew what was going to happen the moment I did so, of course. I have no idea what this is, she tells me after a minute of making understanding noises and looking over the code. Gonk. I told her as I closed the laptop that wasn't any use to my tune. So June called you to come check on me? I asked, adjusting myself a bit as Hiromi continued to lay on top of me. Basically. He told me you were acting weird and to make sure you were okay. So, want to go party? I'm still mad that last time you went with Malcolm and Ichi without me. You had school. I hate that you actually care about that, she told me, as she sighed and slumped over me even more. Motoko. She whined at me as she flopped against me. Fine, we can go out for the night. Great. I want to ride around all night. I've been stuck in a classroom forever. Motoko. Let's go. She whined at me, and I couldn't help but laugh at my lap full of squirmy demanding best tune. Alright, let me get dressed and we will go for a drive. Great. I'm dry. No. Uck. I want to take my bike. I'm not letting you drive again. That's dangerous. Hiromi scoffed at me, before smirking. Fine. You drive my bike. She reached out and poked my nose and I snorted. Your bike is so. Hey. Don't badmouth my ride. If you don't like it, get your own Kusanagi. Maybe I will. I offered back and then Hiromi smirked at me. She tricked me. Cool, I want to be there when you buy it and I demand the first ride, she said, looking proud of herself. I just rolled my eyes. I don't have the eddies for a new bike right now, Hiromi. But I'll put it on the list. I do want a Kusanagi, but just a normal one, I said, finger pointed at her. She just laughed at me, and slipped off, letting me stand to get ready. Finally dressed, I followed Hiromi out of the apartment as she skipped towards the elevator, which I climbed in with. Like normal, her bike was parked outside the apartments on the sidewalk. Normally I would worry about it being stolen, but in this one instance her choice of bike had an advantage. This was a TC neighborhood, and no one lifted a TC-styled bike. I mean, Hiromi still had plenty of TC decals on her bike too, so it really was protected. If only it wasn't so stupid looking. Massive swoop back seats? On a crotch rocket? My eyes glaring at the stupid backseat that just ruined the lines of a beautiful bike. PFFT. You are so picky. Come on, hop on, she demanded as she jumped on and made room for me to drive, patting the seat in front of her. I did as demanded. This was Hiromi time. She did deserve some time away from school, so if she wanted to drive around the city for a while, that was no problem for me. She quickly grabbed hold of me tightly, like she expected me to just floor it out of the sidewalk. Which I of course didn't. Waiting for a break in traffic, I pulled the bike into the street and headed out onto the town. Hiromi's moans complaining of me driving like a gonk in my ear. We drove around the city for hours, just enjoying the view and feel of the road. It wasn't something I would normally do. I liked having a goal whenever I went out driving, but in this case Hiromi just wanted some freedom, to escape the cage of school. In this case I could understand, and so I didn't mind that every time I started thinking about driving home Hiromi would notice and ask to go somewhere else. We ended up driving all over, checking out the sights. We even drove past the old Shinto shrine out by North Oak. We didn't stop to go inside, just driving past it along the windy mountain road. It was just a tourist trap anyways. But the sights of the city from up on the mountains was nice. Eventually Hiromi finally signaled to let me drive home and we did, but not before I stopped to surprise her with some food. I had heard her belly rumbling as we drove, and so we found a nice little restaurant, and spent the next hour laughing with each other as she shared stories about what it was like going to Arasaka Academy. It was nice. After Hiromi dropped me off at home, it was getting pretty late, but neither of us cared. It was the weekend tomorrow, so she didn't have school, and my life literally had no set schedule. Unfortunately Hiromi couldn't stay over. She had a thing with her parents in the morning. So free of any tomb-shaped obligations, I hurried back into the apartment. Of course, the moment I went inside, I flopped on the couch and grabbed my laptop. Time to finish this. Ping. Even the version I was writing was still a big program, taking hours to go through every line and ensure it would be as compact and efficient as I could make it. Even when I finished writing the last line of code, that wasn't the end. Instead I went back through it, combing over the entire program, finding a few minor errors here and there that I hadn't caught while I was programming, but now that I was fully focused on it, debug's experience coming in clutch to catch the tiniest of errors. Finally I stopped, staring at the program as it compiled. As my work over the last 2 days flowed into a single efficient, effective program. Ping. No ping 2.0. I unloaded the old version from my cyberware and installed the new one, laughing that it took up so little space compared to the bloated, inefficient program I had before. That it not only didn't take up a slot of my cyberware's programming, it would use practically no RAM to activate. I looked at the TV and pinged it, watching in fascination as the program instantly got a return, as lines appeared on my vision showing me the few pieces of tech the TV was connected to. And then more. The light flowed to the transmitter the TV used to pick up stations, and actually flowed through that. My new design for ping, completely uncaring about the ice the system might use, as it flowed through and kept pinging off more and more equipment. Every TV in the building was highlighted showing the connection, and when it reached the roof transmitter that connected outward it started gathering data from that, before I stopped the program. Okay, I might need to add a tiny bit more code to actually limit the spread, that might be too much data return. Well, that wouldn't take more than a minute just to tell it to stop pinging after a certain amount of system jumps. Of course I would still want the option to go further, so a simple yes/no would solve that. And done, recompile and reinstalled. This is what ping should have been. An hour later, despite it being so late at night, I traveled to my Netrunner basement. I had to admit I was so proud of my ping 2.0 that I wanted to show it off. So I hurried over to Dewdrop Inn after logging into the net and raced around to find Yoko. The inn was unsurprisingly super active despite it being so late. What's that? Hackers staying up all night and sleeping during the day? Or not sleeping at all? Color me shocked. I stepped into the riot of color that was the Dewdrop Inn lobby, and looked around for my target, but I didn't see any big kitsune hanging around. So I took a seat in a quiet corner and sent a message to Yoko. I got an instant response, telling me Yoko was in a meeting and would reach out to me once she was done. I groaned. My desire to show off my program made me impatient, but nothing else I could do. So instead I decided to people watch. Hackers were an interesting bunch. Some gathered in groups, some were on the dance floor showing off their purchased or made dance routines. I knew they were emotes, though I don't think any of them were showing their actual dance ability. But that was what the net was like. It didn't matter how you were at something physically, if you could hack, or program yourself with the skill, you could be a master. It was certainly interesting to watch. In the end it was someone sliding into my booth that broke me out of my people watching. I guess I should have marked the booth private or something, if I didn't want to be bothered. If I knew how to do that. I had seen a few of the booths with the message floating over them. Hey, I don't recognize you. Name's E. You can just flag me as X though. New around here? He asked, and to my surprise he didn't sound flirty. Thankfully. I looked over his face, the only part of his avatar I could see just like everyone in the server, and was doubly glad. He had to be in his 20s at the youngest. Not my first time, but I don't usually hang out here. Just waiting for a contact. I offered, and unfortunately he didn't take the hint that I wanted to be left alone. Well, it's always nice to see a new face. How's hacking been? Run into any trouble? I know a lot of people with a lot of connections. If you need some info, or backup. He offered with a smile, and I shook my head. I'm good, thanks. Oh listen, I'm trying to help you out, kid. You're obviously new. I'm part of a Netrunner collective. We help out newbies, give them gigs that can put their skills to use. You should. X. Thanks, but I'm good. I denied, cutting him off. I wasn't really looking for Netrunner gigs. I would make my own gigs here on the net. X sighed and stood up. Well, good luck then, kid. But don't think it'll be as easy to join up in the future if you end up needing help. I doubt that will be an issue. A third voice intruded, and I didn't sigh only because I was too annoyed with X at the sight of Yoko standing at the end of the booth. Yoko. How goes? I greeted her, sounding relieved at her appearance. Fine, Motoko. You wanted to chat? Ignoring the other hacker, I nodded, now smiling from ear to ear. I got something I think is pretty preem. I wanted to show it off a bit. I told her as I twirled a finger, pulling a copy of Ping 2.0 into a visual medium, showing it as a glowing shard over my finger. I offered it to Yoko. I could see the interest in X as he looked like he was trying to peek, but Yoko's own eyes slammed up a moment before my own. Yoko was quick. That was a pretty insane processing speed. Made me wonder what her cyber deck actually was. But a moment later Yoko had touched the shard file and accessed it. I couldn't follow along because I couldn't see the screens she was no doubt seeing visually in front of her face, but I could tell that she was impressed because she went from her normal sensual smirk to a flatter, more focused look as she looked it over. Where did you get this? No, wait, Don't answer that, she demanded suddenly and waved a hand. I got a transfer request and accepted, leaving the booth, and Yoko and I both appeared in her private lobby instantly this time. Last time Yoko had always used a gate to let me access it myself. It was a weird feeling to be moved like that. Motoko, where did you get this? I made it, I told her with a fox-like grin of my own. Her neck jerking towards me as she focused on me told me everything I needed to know about Ping 2.0. It was good. Way better than something a 14-year-old should be capable of. I kept my smirk as Yoko seemed to consider whether she would believe me or not before seemingly deciding not to argue. I've been working on my programming for a while, but in the end Ping was just too messy for me. So I rewrote my own basically from scratch. It's more of a stealth hack than the original, I offered, and Yoko nodded. I've had a chance to see the best of what Ping can become, and while you don't hit everything that it is capable of, this is different. It's not the same program at all, Yoko offered, sounding delighted. Like I said, I wasn't happy with the original, so I wrote my own. I'd like to trade for it. The ability to trade copies as well, she said suddenly, and I blinked. What? She gave me a smirk this time. I work as a trader, Motoko. New programs, hacks, and information are all things I trade in. Something like this has real value. I nodded at that. It was true, but did I want to go down that route? Right now Ping 2.0 was completely unknown. No one could develop a counter to its stealth nature because no one knew it existed. But in the end I shrugged. All right, but it won't be free, I offered, and instantly Yoko scoffed. Of course not. I'll open up my stores for you. Let's see if I can't find something that catches your interest, she offers with a smirk, and I couldn't help but feel a little excited. It would be nice to see what sort of things Yoko had collected. What valuable programs she had found over the years. Excellent. Now before that, I have to ask about the coding here, she said, causing a screen to pop up and show the lines of code on the program. Oh. I grinned as Yoko asked me code questions. Was I going to geek out about my code with Yoko? Yes. Yes, I was. In the end I did agree to a trade. Yoko would owe me multiple favors, and a few quick hacks to be able to sell out my Ping to netrunners. Picking up a few quick hacks that I wanted to fill out my cyberdeck really did make it worth it, even if the future favors that Yoko now owed me would probably be more valuable in the long run. But more importantly than that, the pure excitement that Yoko had shown as we got into the programming, as we dug into the whys and hows, made my night. Totally worth the few days it took to fully program the thing. Geez, just the fact I was able to remake Ping from the ground up in just a few days of work made me aware of just what programming 10 really meant. Between the massive amount of experience and knowledge I had, and the perks keeping me completely invested, and able to find and debug errors nearly instantly, I was a monster of a programmer. It was amazing. Yoko had kept me in her lobby as we talked for hours about programming, but eventually I escaped. As I drove home long after the sun had come up, I was forced to wonder once again. What would programming 11 look like? If I was already this good? I could already basically write an entire program in one sitting, no wasting time coming up with what I needed the code to do. I just wrote it, already knowing what the best way to code it was. In the end, I would find out. As I drove through the early morning traffic, through a city that never sleeps, but did wake up from time to time, I knew that I would find out. Because this world, this life, was just too much fun. I was still practically buzzing when I got home and flopped on the couch. June was out, probably doing more TC work, but I finally felt that urge, that need to code satisfied at least for now. Sure, I have even more quick hacks I wanted to play with, and there was of course the big project that I wanted. And the music box. I blinked. Okay, fine. Time to finish my music box. I pulled up my coding laptop and opened my old work on it. Then I deleted it all, and started fresh. I needed a system capable of handling the sounds I couldn't make with a guitar, but it was more than that. I wanted it to be me still. I didn't want just bad recordings, I wanted my own music to be part of it. So I got to programming. This time, I was inspired. The programming of the box was a few things. First, It was a sound system. I would be able to literally write songs, and add tracks and sounds to it directly. The programming for that took a while, but when I finished I realized I would need even more hardware to handle this. It needed a bigger hard drive, basically. So I went back out and hit a computer parts store. It was less Netrunner stuff, and more home system use, but that was fine. I shelled out a good amount of eddies for a large modern memory storage, and installed that into my incomplete memory box. Motoko, have you eaten today? June demanded suddenly as I blinked and he was in the house. I might need to stop getting so hyper-focused when I worked. I think so. Eat, he demanded, handing me a double XL burrito. Was this punishment? If I forgot to eat, would June force me to eat one of these? This is cruel and unusual punishment. I complained, but June was in no mood. Watching as I scarfed down the burrito so I tasted it as little as possible, and then he nodded. Come on, we are going out. What? Come on, June. I'm in the middle of something. Have you even left the house today? He asked instantly with a glare, and I returned it. I have. I got home early this morning from netrunning. I then went to the computer store. Just because I'm getting distracted with this, doesn't mean you get to treat me like a child. June. He looked like he was going to explode for a minute, but then he took a deep breath and let it out. Okay. I'm sorry, he said, and I blinked, surprised at the sudden shift. You have me worried though. You got sick the other day because you didn't do anything but work on your program. Okay, yeah, I wasn't at my best, but it wasn't because I got. Okay, fine. I'll set an alarm, and if I don't eat or something I'll suck it up and let you treat me like an idiot for a while. Deal? June seemed just as surprised at my words as I had been at his. Then his lips quirked up. Deal. He reached over and despite my attempts to keep it away, his hand patted my head for a few moments. How about we head out anyways? We haven't really done anything besides hang out around the house in a while. We could go hit the gun range? Or visit Sensei. He bugged me the last time I was at the dojo that he hasn't seen you. I blinked. Wait, Sensei wanted me to come to the dojo? I asked, actually surprised. Honestly, considering how often he had put me in timeout, I had the impression the guy hadn't liked me very much. Motoko. Sensei thought you were preem. Hell, I think you're preem. You fought off Borgs with a katana, while adapting to brand new cyberarms. Remember? He asked, looking at me like I was a dunce. I lost. I reminded him how our fight had ended up. Aghari had beat my ass, and June and I had ended up. Well, roughhousing was the kindest way to put it. You survived. Come on. Grab your katana as well. Sensei will be glad to see you, but he's definitely going to force you into some kata. Or June, I don't want to deal with that right now. I grumbled, but he was smirking at me, and I didn't have the heart to get into a fight to remove it. Jerk would just sit on me again anyways. Fine. But I demand noodles for dinner. We'll eat after we see Sensei, it'll work up an appetite. He told me, smiling brightly, and I sighed as I got ready. Walking up to the dojo for the first time in a while was weird. It didn't look all that different, although it was a lot busier than it had been during the war. June had driven this time, refusing to let me drive him in the quadra, so I was riding on the back of his Kusanagi. He parked out front right next to the 12 other Kusanagi, all parked in front of the gate. Like I said. Busy. Once again, the fact I wasn't wearing any TC memorabilia, or had the tattoos, meant that as I followed June through the gate, he was getting nods of respect, while I was getting weird looks. We walked into the entrance of the dojo, funnily enough a room I had never been before, but June walked right past the little reception, taking me around to the side which opened up to the dojo itself. It was filled. TC guys were all training, some with bokken, some with the exercise equipment laying around the area. But June walked confidently to the one person in the room I actually knew. Sensei. June offered, holding a fist with his other hand and bowing. Kusanagi. And Kusanagi. He greeted us both. I didn't bow, but I did give him a smile and a wave. You look well. Have you kept up your practice? He asked me instantly, probably already knowing the answer. Dang it. June was purposefully not looking at me. Had June sold me out? No. I haven't had a chance to draw a blade in a while. Then you will need practice. Kusanagi, go, you know what training is needed, he said, looking to June before turning back to me. You come. Let's see how much you have lost. I didn't groan audibly. I followed Sensei as he led me over to an open area, a place not to battle with another student, but just a practice area. He grabbed a bokken off the wall and handed it to me. Begin, he demanded, and I nodded, remembering the stances and swings he had liked. So I exercised. It wasn't all bad. Swords were cool, but this still felt like a betrayal from June. Now I know why he had agreed to noodles so easily. The bastard. Who's the kid? I heard whispers among some of the TC guys that were practicing under Sensei's watchful gaze. No idea. Sensei put her in the corner. She one of us? No idea. They thought they were being quiet, but the room was mostly quiet outside of soft grunts, and my ears were pretty good. I didn't care though. If I was going to be stuck practicing sword forms, I was going to try and wrangle another Blades level up out of it. Or at least try. But I wasn't going to be left alone. Finally someone cracked. Their desire to try and figure out who the weird girl in the corner was overrode Sensei's wrath. It made sense. Gangbangers weren't known for their patience. Hey, girl, who are you? One of the men said, having stomped over towards me. Motoko, I said, but ignored him otherwise. I could see Sensei watching, and I knew how that man thought. If I stopped swinging, he would be over here in an instant to berate me. Even if someone was interrupting my practice. Never seen you before. What are you doing here? Practicing, I said, just restraining myself from rolling my eyes. This answer didn't seem to please the man. Fine. Then as your senpai, I'll give you a lesson, he said casually, at least trying to sound nice, but it was obvious the guy was looking for trouble. Considering June wasn't in the room at the moment. He had gone downstairs at one point. That was probably the only reason the guy wasn't a smear on the tatami already. I'm good. I answered instead, focusing on my blade work. Sensei was watching. I insist. Everyone who comes here has to get used to the way we do things, he said, firmly standing in front of me, forcing me to stop swinging. Then he took a few steps back and raised his own bokken up. Really? I couldn't help but ask. You really want to do this right now with Sensei watching? Sensei hasn't stopped me. If you were one of us, you would understand the rules of this place. Tsukune, he said with a rather nasty smile before his face flattened, and he swung. Did he just offer his name and attack? What a weeb. He was strong. I noted, not Borg strong, but he was a taller guy and he obviously worked out a lot. Everyone's picking on the teenage girl today. My eyes narrowed and I decided I wasn't having it. My bokken instantly flashed out, startling him as I went on the offense, swinging for his neck and face each time. It was only a bokken, and swinging for the chest might make him ignore a swipe to really slam into me, but a face strike? No one wanted to get hit in the face. So he blocked, and that let me put him into my pace. He might be stronger, but I was faster, and I think I was better with a sword too. He blocked a retaliatory swipe of his own bokken, trying to force me back, but I just turned that into another swipe. No, I confirmed. I knew I was better. We continued with my blows constantly raining down. He was just good enough to block them, just good enough to stay alive under my assault. I could see the moment his face went from confident blank to actually worried. The moment he looked at his tombs and then refocused on me. I was pushing him nearly up against the well when I felt it. An intrusion. Someone was trying to quick hack me. My own defenses were holding them off, but that wouldn't last forever. I tumbled backwards, flipping a few times to make room, and glared. That one. The guy with the stupid face was trying to hack me. I attacked him viciously. A breach slamming into his personal ice and a quick hack right behind where he was taking time to break through. I had no such problems. His eyes shut down, causing him to cry out, which was right about the time I chucked my bokken, letting it spin end after end until it smacked right into the now blinded netrunner's face. His quick hack ended just as abruptly. Unfortunately, I couldn't enjoy my time. I spun, smacking the bokken, striking down at me away with a backhand. Tsukune, the fucker, had tried to sneak attack me. I rolled backwards until I reached the wall and then I rearmed myself. 2 bokken were in my fists and I twirled my left hand one. I was gonna beat this skunk black and blue. What is going on here? June's voice suddenly cut in and everyone stepped back. Sukune might be a tall kid, but he was practically half of June's size after all the chrome June had chipped in. There was a reason just his fat ass alone was enough to hold me down. Asked Kusanagi-sama. Sukune called out looking surprised. Kusanagi-sama? I couldn't quite hide the snort and snickering I let out. June turned to me with a glare that I was trying to hide my giggles from, but they were looking at June like he was some big important guy, and not the teenager that literally ate burritos for all meals of the day if I let him. What is going on? June asked me, and I couldn't help it. June-ni. These big scary meanies were bullying me. They made me fight, and even tried to quick hack me in the middle. I whined purposefully using siren song to make my voice as childish as I could. Which might have been too effective as June's nose wrinkled at me. Ni? Sukune asked, sounding a little faint as he realized what he had just done. I was smirking looking at the older guy, the guy who was standing next to my testy Borg brother. I was so ready for June to start growling. Motoko, don't bully people, June said suddenly cutting through my schadenfreude. Wah. June. They were bullying me. I was minding my own business doing the practice sensei gave me. Sorry about my sister. She's kinda a gorilla. June absolutely bashes me. How dare he? Of course I retaliated walking over and punching him right where his kidney would be. Unfortunately his stupid crow meant he just grunted a little at my strike and ignored me after. Asked, of course Kusanagi-sama, I didn't know she was your sister. Tsukune bowed to June nervously, but I was more focused on glaring at my jerkus brother. How dare he not take the side of his shy sister getting bullied by a bunch of gym brothers. Good, I'm glad. And one last thing. June suddenly moved, and his hand was wrapped around Tsukune's throat. I had stepped back and raised instinctively at June's sudden aggressive action. But I relaxed. June wasn't a cyberpsycho right now. It would be fine. Poor Tsukune of course didn't know that, lifted off the ground by my Borg brother, his feet wiggling as they reached for solid ground. If you ever bother my sister like that again, I'll make you regret it. To my surprise though, Sensei wasn't getting involved. The older man was just standing back watching it all take place. Finally June let the guy go as he flopped onto the ground gasping for air. Come on Motoko. Sensei wants you. June offered, returning back to the calm air he had just before. If you were gonna scare them, at least don't throw me under the bus first. I grumbled at him, but June just reached out and ruffled my hair as we walked over to Sensei. Of course I batted his hands away, now wasn't the time for headpats. Kusanagi. Spar with Kito, Sensei said as we finally approached pointing me at another man that was probably a decade older than me who looked just as surprised. At first I thought he was talking to June, but June and Sensei instantly walked off back towards a corner. Irritating. Hey. I offered with a weak wave of my bokken. Kito. He introduced himself, and then took a swipe at me. I guess it was a good thing I was still holding the 2 bokken I had picked up. I blocked, and started my own assault. 100 blades XP gained. 100 blades XP gained. 100 blades XP gained. I was reading through the alerts I had gotten after everything, clutching onto June as he drove us to a noodle bar. He had promised after all, and he was right. I was now very hungry. Stupid Sensei made me keep sparring with people whenever I beat one, or was defeated. I would need to nap when I get home. I had bruises all over my body. Unfortunately, while the alerts were good, I didn't get an actual level up. I would have to spar more if I wanted that sweet blades level up. Sorry about that, June mentioned as we pulled into a space near Cherry Blossom Market. I guess the noodle shop there was June's favorite. About what? I grumbled at him. I hadn't exactly planned to get dragged into a sword fight with everyone in the dojo. You know what? Sorry. I should have warned you a bit. The students at the dojo are very territorial. I think Sensei wanted to see how you handled them as well. Sensei can suck a full bag of dicks. June snorted before gently bopping me on the head. Be respectful, he helped both of us before. But yeah, he can be a dick about it. You were having fun though. You were smiling while swinging those bokken. I gave June a deadpan. I was forced to fight every gonk that wanted around. Of course I took the small pleasure I could by hitting them in the face. I told him as we walked through the market. I'm glad you weren't hurt too much. You've gotten pretty good with a blade. I'm proud of you. Nuh-uh. You don't get to be proud of me after throwing me into a weird winner-takes-all training session. Noodles first, and maybe after I'll forgive you enough to let you be proud of me. I told him, and June actually laughed, an honest real noise escaping him as he leaned over and threw an arm over my shoulder. Deal. Ringing. I blinked. Feet stopped as a call came in. A call from Waikiko. Hold on. I told June instantly, as my eyes went gold. Waikiko, what's up? Stop by. Wells is already on his way. I have a gig for you. The call ended, and I sighed long and loud. Then when I ran out of air I took a deep breath slowly, and then sighed again. Rain checked June knee. I have a gig from Waikiko. I told him, and he gave me that little frown he did whenever I went and did something dangerous. That was fast. Waikiko likes to hang up on people. It's one of her things. I mentioned, and June's eyes narrowed. Maybe you should stop working for her, Motoko. If she isn't treating you right. I scoffed at that. Waikiko is just grumpy. We spent like an hour watching some weird show last time I visited. It's cool, June. You watched TV with Waikiko? The fixer Waikiko? June asked, looking at me like I was crazy. Yeah? She has shit taste in TV too. Gotta go. I told him as I turned and headed through the market towards Jig Jig Street. First gig with Jackie? Interesting. Fine. Call if you are going to be out late, June demanded like a mother hen as I was walking away, and I just nodded and waved behind me.